In this 3.4 intro video, we've got a little bit of vocabulary to go over. So first we have the median of a triangle. So the median of a triangle is a line, so that's what we're going to fill in first. A line drawn from any vertex, so let's fill in vertex, of the triangle to the midpoint of the opposite side. So if we take a look at this picture on the right, we can go ahead and draw in the median. So the median will go from a vertex, so let's take a look at vertex A, and it's going to be drawn from the vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this to the point that's already there, point X, and that line is a median of the triangle. That means that X down here is the midpoint of this segment, the side that's opposite of the vertex. And then remember, if X is our vertex down here, that means that segment BX will be congruent to segment XC. Midpoint gives you two congruent segments. So if someone were to ask us what is the median of this triangle, we would say that the median is segment AX. This last question down here, is X the midpoint of BC? That's kind of what we talked about already, so we can go ahead and say, yes, it sure is. Another new word for us is the altitude of a triangle. So an altitude of a triangle is also a line, just like a median is a line, but this line is going to be a little different. It's a line drawn from any vertex of the triangle to the opposite side, so similar to the median so far, but when the line is drawn from any vertex to the opposite side and it's going to be perpendicular to that side. Remember, perpendicular is 90 degrees. We would be forming a right angle with the altitude of our triangle. So when you draw that in, if we look at our triangle, ABC, the altitude, let's say we start with vertex B, our altitude, we can draw a line to the opposite side so that it hits at a 90-degree angle. Remember, that makes two 90-degree angles. So up here, an altitude of a triangle forms two right angles with one of its sides. Is X the midpoint of AC? Now remember, a median is a midpoint. Does that mean that the altitude is also the midpoint? You just want to be careful with this, because this drawing, it kind of looks like, sure, it's hitting in the middle of side AC, but that's not something that we can assume. So an altitude is not necessarily the midpoint. It could be, but it's not going to be every single time. So I just drew in a new triangle over here. This is an example that kind of makes our answer to this question a little bit more clear. Here's another triangle ABC. If we were to draw the altitude from vertex B, we would start here and you'd have to draw the altitude so that it formed a 90-degree angle with the opposite side. And so I think it's pretty clear here. You can see that this is not the midpoint. It's not in the middle of this side. So there's an example where it's not the midpoint. But we would say, let's say that we labeled that an X right there. BX is the altitude. Same thing up here. If we labeled that an X, then BX is also the altitude.